Hi, my name is Dan Ames. I'm an Associate Professor of Geosciences at Idaho State University in the Center for Advanced Energy Studies in the Department of Geosciences at the Geospatial Software Lab in Idaho Falls, Idaho. This presentation is a summary of the work I presented in 2011 at the Open Source GIS Conference FOSS4G in Denver. A few years ago, our team began hosting our open source GIS software projects on a website called Codeplex.com. This is a website developed and maintained by Microsoft to support the open source software community. One might ask, what's Microsoft doing supporting an open source GIS or any kind of open source website such as Codeplex? Certainly a website such as this wouldn't succeed because who would want to host an open source project on a website such as operated by a company called Microsoft, Microsoft being the source and the bearer of much of the greatest wrath of the open source community. So as it turns out, there are a lot of people who do host open source projects on Codeplex.com, ourselves included. We're in good company. And so the question is, what do we make of these people? Traders? People who are sort of only somewhat open source? What's the deal with building open source software to run on Windows anyway? So we'll explore these questions a little bit and ask the question, what are appropriate thresholds of proprietary software tolerance? So first of all, I will be the devil's advocate here and call Codeplex.com a den of iniquity. In other words, we're sitting there trying to create software that we want to put out there as open source, but we're harboring Microsoft software and Microsoft tools and using .NET programming language and so forth. Is this even appropriate? And should we be cast out and shunned from the open source world? A lot of folks say, yeah, probably so. I'd like to argue a little bit about the Microsoft effort here and say they've done a pretty amazing job at providing something for those of us in the open source world to use. The Codeplex.com website is actually, in my opinion, significantly better than SourceForge. It's like SourceForge without the ads. SourceForge is a pain in the neck for me. I can't ever find the right download link because there's so many ads being posted all over the place on SourceForge. Codeplex.com is clean. It's easy to use. It's got wiki pages, source control based on Mercurial Subversion or Team Foundation server. It's got discussion forums, issue tracking, project tagging. And the other things listed here, probably most importantly, is the Codeplex.com team is actually accessible. When you send an email to somebody with a problem about their website, they reply and help. As of the conference, 9/12/2011, there were over 24,000 projects hosted on Codeplex.com. And as of that date, the most popular couple of them were projects like this, the WBFS File Manager, which is actually a tool that helps you get into your Wii and build disks to put on a Wii with 5,900,000 downloads, and .NET Nuke Community Edition, which many of you have used and probably aware of, a website content management system. Least popular, on that day anyway, eMath. eMath program helps in Learn Mathematics. That's the description. Has 0 downloads. And Regular Expression Evaluator, again, 0 downloads. But interesting to see the spectrum of tools that are up there. Here's the website for Codeplex.com. Just to show you real quickly how easily Microsoft has made it for us to fire up a new open source project. You simply give it a title, you give it a URL, a name. This is to be unique from any of the other projects on the website. Pick your source control system, type in a summary, and then you're up and running. Here's an example of how it looks when you're up and running. We've gone a little further and customized our logo. This is for the .spatial project, which is our open source GIS ASP.NET or C#.NET answer to ArcObjects. And .spatial, we set up the downloads here. We've added a number of downloads. There you'll also see a documentation tab, discussion, issue tracker, source code. Most importantly, the home page. We have a wiki here where you can edit and add icons and text and information, graphics. That same login allows you to get into a documentation tab where you can write some more wiki-style documentation using a WYSIWYG editor or just regular text wiki-style editor. There is a nice incorporated discussion forum and an issue tracker. We use these actively for tracking our issues and discussions. And then, of course, the source code is all listed here. We have the ability to manage the team very nicely through Codeplex, and it gives you a list of all the people that are team members, followers, and you can set their permissions. And maybe even more important than anything else I've shown so far is the license. In order to use Codeplex.com, before you can submit your code, you have to specify a license that you're going to use. In this case, it's showing the use of the library general public license. There are a number of different licenses you could choose from. You specify one of their default licenses, fill in a template, and hit save, and then you're good to go with your license. But really, the question is, why Microsoft? I mean, is it appropriate to be thinking about open source in the world of Microsoft? I would argue yes. As of August 2011, you could tell here from this diagram that Windows still has a significant usage of the desktop operating systems, or significant deployment. Windows XP, surprisingly, still has about 35% of the market, with Windows 7 and Windows Vista. Even Windows Vista, as a poor quality of a operating system, as many problems, let's say, as that had, still has more users than Mac OS X, at least as of August 2011. And this is based on some Wikipedia statistics. And you know that Wikipedia isn't perfect, but of course, if anyone disagrees with those, they can and ought to go in and re-edit that page. And it's been edited a lot, and this is what resolves out of it. Here are some more statistical counts. This is coming from StatCounter.com, and StatCounter shows that WinXP is rapidly falling in popularity, with Windows 7 quickly rising in popularity. I like Windows 7. I use it a lot on my MacBook Pro. So a little bit about the statistics, and this again is a quote from Wikipedia. There's little openly published information on the usage share of desktop and laptop computers. So you have to sort of figure this out through other methods. Fortunately, people like Gartner, groups like Gartner, publish estimates. And interestingly, there's this caveat here, which is that a lot of computers are sold with a pre-installed OS. If we calculate based on those, you might get a lot of Windows user. But on the other hand, you might see that sales might underestimate usage by not counting pirated copies. And as you may already know, it's easier to pirate a copy of Windows than it is a copy of Mac OS X, in my opinion. So bottom line, it's about 3/4 of all desktop computers are running a version of a Windows operating system. So why not go ahead and sort of infuse the Windows world with the concept of open source? It's not a bad idea. So a word on Microsoft Windows technologies. If you're not familiar developing for Windows, we see two main types of technologies that we've played with and that you'll see widely used in the open source world on Windows. One is the COM/ActiveX technology. And this is basically technology that's been around for a long time. The idea was COM can be used so that you don't have to redeploy DLLs. You can reuse, make reusable components, take advantage of existing components, link together components, do drag and drop programming in Visual Basic. It was very popular for the Visual Basic 6 applications such as MapWindow